All right, welcome back, and it's COMP397, Web Game Programming, and it's week 4, lesson 4, part 1. And I want to talk a little bit about assignment number 1, which is going to be due, is it this Friday? I think it's Friday, right? So I want to bring up the assignment document to make sure that you guys are still clear, because I've been getting some questions via email as well as some in class that are very similar. So let's take a look at that. Excuse me. So what is this assignment when we speak of? Well, we're talking about this one. It's the dragon. This is the infamous dragon that people hate to do, right? So as we mentioned a couple weeks back, I guess, or a week back, we talked about the assignment being, it's mostly about documentation, this one, right? So there's a couple things to note. One, someone asked, do I need this? Do I need this kind of like, node or whatever? Well, it's nice to have. I think I'm not going to force you to make something like this where, you actually show kind of the map, but I think it's nice to show me, kind of the nodes that tell me how you mapped everything out. This is like really part of your planning process to me. So, whether you include it or not, I mean, I think, from your external document perspective, you want to kind of include some of your planning and concept, when it comes to your game, right? So we're doing this first one, this drive run with a very simple game, right? That's why we're doing this assignment number 1 primarily. Yes, there are other underlying reasons like understanding your thinking and all that kind of stuff as well. But really, it's all about your documentation, internal and external. A bit of functionality and learning a new API as well, but that's secondary. So again, you have, if you notice, one part, like I mentioned before, is this functionality piece, which is someone asked before if, well, can I have more than 8 outcomes instead of just 8 outcomes, right? And the answer is, of course, yes, you can. You can have as many outcomes as you want, right? The challenge is you can only have one positive outcome. Let me just zoom in here so I can see what I'm talking about here. So you have all these outcomes, right? But only one positive one. You can have another 20 of these bad ones that can happen. It's up to you. Another person asks, well, what if I want to go down another level? Can I do that? Yes, you can. It's just extra work, right? I don't mind how far you go down, right? It just becomes a little bit more challenging because I'm going to go through each of them, right? So, but the idea here is that this is the minimum structure that I've set out for you for this assignment. So, with everything so nicely kind of in this pyramid pattern, right? But what if you wanted to add another one over here, right? Another tree, another branch, if you will, right? You can certainly do that. I'm not going to stop you from adding additional branches to your story, right? But what if you added another node down here in decision level 3 over here somewhere? You could, right? Or what about when you go into this node, instead of finishing here, what if you wanted to go further down? You could, right? It's not a bad thing to do, as long as there's only one positive outcome. That's good for me. So a little bit about that.
If we give you that, it's fine, right?
If you just give me this, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the minimum amount. This is what I would request at the minimum. For those of you who haven't signed in, please sign it. I think your partner over there didn't sign in too. Okay, so that's the minimum amount, right? I'm not going to say it's the maximum amount because some people like to enjoy themselves and make their story. It's their story. They might need a little bit more room, because they want to, I don't know, they're taking a story from somewhere else. It's fine. Remember, I don't want a story about a dragon, okay? That's one thing I'd ask you not to give me. Do not give me a story about dragons, all right? If you made a story about dragons, I'm not going to accept it. I kind of said it a couple times, but I'll say it again this time. No story about dragons, all right? I've had dragons for the last 4 years, all right? I don't want more dragons. Okay, let's get back to this. So internal documentation, again, just to remark on this, just we can talk about what this piece is. I'm just going to zoom out again so you can see it. So 2A is these comments. That's all they are. They're internal comments. And one of the questions I got today, and I've had it as an email as well, is how many of these documents do I have to include in every single document? And the answer is only the ones that you really did anything on, So for example, if you have an index.html page, I'd like it there. I probably would like it on if you made any custom CSS changes, it's going to be there with your custom CSS, at least broken down into section about what you did, right? Just this 2A part, because it's a different document, right? And you may have revised this CSS and so on, or the index.html, or if you have a JavaScript file or something else, it goes in all these ones, okay? And what if you have a lot of them, right? Well, sometimes it's enough to say, and sorry, the other question was revision history. What do you mean, Tom? Does that mean I have to put in all the revisions from GitHub, right? Every time I do a revision in GitHub, I have to change my stuff? Well, yeah, the other way it works is this. If you've if you've added a revision, let's say you've got your index.html and you say, well, this is version 3 of my document, right? You can go as deep as you want here, but the idea is that each of your documents is a living document, right? So whether it's index.html or the CSS page or your JavaScript pages, even if later on when we make JavaScript classes and so on, those classes can go through their own little revisions. And the idea here is you keep track of what you've done. Yeah, GitHub keeps track of it, but you are responsible for it in the end. Because GitHub can only do the overall revision. And yes, it keeps track of which document you've changed, especially if you've changed a lot of stuff at one revision. It's a pain in the ass to keep track of it manually. But the idea here is that you understand, where you are from a revision perspective. Now, it's only worth a mark. So, if you forget it on a page or whatever, you're not going to lose a full mark. If you have 3 pages, you might lose half a mark, as an example. But I just wanted to let you know how that works. External documentation. I get these questions like, do I really have to do a logo? Yes, you do. It's worth 2 marks. It's worth 2 marks, guys. You're getting marked for it, right? I'm not an artist. How do I come up with that? I didn't know this was an artist course. It's not an artist course, right? It's not an art course. It is, all you need to do is do a very simple design. It doesn't take a lot, and it could be as simple as putting your name with a circle around it. As long as it's something that kind of signifies that it's you, I'm good to go. Obviously, you don't want it to be too ugly, and there's a lot of things you can do. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about how to use some other tools today to help you out. Table of contents. That's pretty clear. No one complained about that. Here's another one. Version history. Hold on, but aren't we doing GitHub? There's the other email I got. Frequently asked questions. Yes, we are doing GitHub. And for this one and for every other document that I get you guys to do, for every other assignment that we do, version history means there's a couple things you can do, like I mentioned before. Copy your commit history from GitHub. Copy and paste, like actually do a snapshot to show your version history, right? Like your commits, as an example, would be the thing to do. Or B, write it out. It's up to you, right? For the most part, I would accept things like just a snapshot from GitHub. But some people are detailed enough that they want to write it out because they want a detailed description of their changes, not just the commit history from GitHub, right? So it's up to you. I'm not going to take marks off if you do just from GitHub. Detailed game description. Well, you want to talk about your game. What is this game that you're making? Today, or right now, you're making a game about this story that you're using, and the vehicle that you're using is Impress.js. That's the way you're doing it, right? You're telling a story with slides, pretty much, right? It's almost like this storytelling thing where you pass the slides around, and then it's choose your own adventure. That's the kind of game you're making. And you're going to have your own theme for the game. Some of you may choose anything else other than dragons. Some of you are going to choose something else, a space game or a game about, it could be something less dramatic. Let's say if you want to talk about other things. The only thing I would ask you not to do is do something like this. Go to A. Okay, from A go to B. From B go to C. I don't want that. It's a game. Okay. It's not just A to B to C to prove that you know how to use Impress.js. That's not this is not the thing here. The thing is to create a game with a story, right? So if the game doesn't have any story, you're going to lose marks, right? So that's part of it. Share your files on GitHub. Some of you still haven't figured out how to use this stuff. Again, Visual Studio, we'll go over it again and again. Visual Studio, it's built into Visual Studio to use kind of a connection to GitHub. Again, you'd have to configure your Visual Studio for GitHub as a default, and for your commits, how many commits do you need, Tom? That's the one question I always get. How many commits do I have to make to get my full marks? The number of commits that you need is the answer, which means if I only see like 2 commits, like as in, you made your initial commit and then you finished your game, you get 0 for this part for 4B, which means because all you've done is you've put your stuff on GitHub. That's not what I'm asking. A commit history is like when you are making your game and as you go, right, every hour, every half an hour, whenever you feel there's a good enough change, you put something, you can recommit something on GitHub. You sync with GitHub so that way you have a history of your changes, right? If you just work for 2 hours, 3 hours straight and don't do anything on GitHub, it's like you've never saved for 3, 4 hours or whatever, or you only saved once. There's got to be, it's almost like a milestone thing. Okay, let's talk about milestones. Who's done any kind of project management at all? No? This is bad, guys, if you guys haven't done project management. But I'm going to attempt, to do a little bit of drawing this morning. See if I can make this work. Because I am not an artist either. But I don't have to be an artist. I can still look like a superstar because I know how to use my tools. Right? That's the idea. If I can get to them. All right. Well, I can't get to them because I am completely out of battery. But that's okay because we can do things different ways. Always be prepared is what I always say. Okay, so I want to talk about milestones, and some people don't understand what that means. So let's look that up. So if I was going to say, what's a milestone, Tom? So what I mean is, if I say project management milestones, right? And if I get some images going on, right? It's almost like, I'm trying to see if there's a map here. Something that makes sense. See how this Gantt chart looks? This is actually a really, really good example of the way things work. In project management, you almost have this idea of a Gantt chart. Right? And what you do is you have these stages in your project. Now, I don't expect you to do this detailed, but the idea here is that every time you get to the end of a piece, right, is a good time to do almost like a commit. What I mean by that is, let's say, I'm going to start off with a bit of a document here to drop, so I show you what this means, because some people get confused around this. This goes down to theory again, so I'm kind of touching a little bit of project management here, but I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible because project management is a little bit out of scope for what we're talking about. Let's go into a new document here. I'm just going to put up a new drawing document here. So I'll start drawing. All right, so let's say you start off with this circle right here. So there's our circle, and it's a red circle with some kind of green border. That's fine. I must have left it there from the last demonstration I did. Okay, so you start here, and you start coding, and finally you get to a stopping place. Right, because you've done some changes and you've got to this next piece, right? Oh, look, this one doesn't have any kind of internal thing at all. That's fine. We'll just take this away just to make it clear. So you start here, and then as you code, you go down this coding line. You get to here, right? And you get to the stopping place because let's say, for example, you do your setup. This is your setup area. So let's put that in. So setup, and this could be project setup, like for your thing. So you start. This is where you start off. And then as you go, right, as an example, and by the way, the reason why I'm drawing it up here instead of drawing it on the board is because people who watch the video can have it too, right? That's the reason why I'm doing it, so that way no one's missed out. All right, so then you get to the first, your first milestone, right? And what the milestone would be is something like, maybe in this first milestone, and whatever, I'm just calling it first milestone, but here, let's just do this. Maybe what you're doing here is you're making things go. Like for example, from a project management perspective, what did you do in your first milestone? Well, maybe slides work, right? The slides work, right? So you know that you've kind of plotted out your slides, and it's a basic framework. Maybe you don't have any styling or whatever, right? So here, let's say, and in your first milestone, no styling, right? So, but your slides all work. You kind of have your story plotted out. That's your first milestone. You do a commit, right? So every time you make a major change to your work, as an example, this would be the bare minimum to do a commit, right? And let's say the next milestone, I'm just going to draw it a little differently now. I'm just going to drag this arrow over here. By the way, it doesn't have to look like this. I'm just making this up, right? This is just your path, let's say, to your work. We're just talking here, right? So there we go. Here's your next milestone. And then your next milestone up here, right? So this is your second milestone, right? Maybe you added some styles to your slides as an example, right? So here we did a couple of this. Added styles, pictures, images, slide styles, and maybe images. And maybe over here, as an example, you also revise your story a little bit. Oops. Oh. All right. This is just, there we go. Revise story, right? So different pieces, you're going to do different things, right? So obviously there'd be how many commits here? At least one for setup, right? Probably one other one from GitHub, right, itself. One from your first milestone, one in the second milestone, and maybe, I don't know, a third one. At minimum, this is all minimum, by the way, guys. Like that, I would do lots and lots of commits myself, but only because, that's the way I work. I work so that way I do a lot of, saving, if you will, as I go, because any changes that I do get saved too, right? So here's another milestone here, down here. And I'll make these a little darker for you guys to see it later on. So this one would be your third milestone, right? So at least this right here is your third milestone, right? And this is bare minimum. This is if you don't do any project management at all. Like this is just you running on the fly, right? Almost like doing a just-in-time kind of planning, right? If you were just doing just-in-time planning, at the minimum, you would have this. Okay, so this is the third milestone. You do slide revisions, right? So you do a little bit of revision work. You make sure the slides look right, more than just styling. You maybe check to see if the spelling's all right, whatever. And instead of images, maybe you add some slides. Maybe add remove slides because you don't like certain slides the way where they sit, as an example, and you want to add some slides somewhere else. I'm talking about this particular one. And maybe finally you do do a little bit of debugging. Make sure that all the slides work. Okay, even though your slides work here, you made some changes, and now you do a little bit of debugging, and maybe do debugging and testing. So testing, debugging, right? So you've got a couple of milestones. Maybe the last one, I'm not going to put it in here, but the last one might be something like your final version, right? So you've kind of done a bunch of things here, and let me just change these so you can see them all because they're a little bit light, right? So I'll make this so that I'll make it 5. There we go. All right, so each of these steps, I'm just making circles, right, as an example, but it's an example of your planning. So this is where you set up. This is your first time. You do some work. You do a commit to GitHub. You do some other work. You do another commit to GitHub. You do some other work. You do a commit to GitHub. And you kind of try and do it at the minimum like this. You might have between these two milestones, first milestone and second milestone, some minor changes, right? You want to make where you upload or update your slides between the two milestones. That's okay, right? It's okay to do extra. I would reward you on doing good, good stuff. I mean, some people do things every minute. That's a little excessive to me, right? To upload to GitHub every minute. But at the bare minimum, you should have every milestone. And this could also represent every hour, every 2 hours, every day. You do, stop for the day. You do a milestone, right? You do a kind of a stop, a commit, if you will. So the reason why I'm getting you to think like this is as developers. Remember, what semester are we in, guys and girls? 4, right? You've already done Comp 100. You've already done, you've done Comp 123, yeah? So you've already finished Comp 123. You know the basis of object-oriented programming. Have you done any kind of database? Yes, you have, probably. You've probably done even some Java, yeah? Right? So you've done a bunch of programming stuff, but you need to work differently than just being a coder. coding work isn't just the only thing we do here when we plot our software, right? We also do a bit of design. And the thing is, for you guys, I mean, when I say design, like as in planning and project management, right? And you'll be taking that pretty soon. If you haven't taken it already, it's part of our curriculum that you do this. But at the bare minimum, what I want you to do when you plan your work is to have a few stopping points when you save, right? Because I don't want to hear this terrible story like this, right? Tom, the dog ate my laptop, right? I don't want to hear that. Tom, my laptop burned. I had to return it to Best Buy, right? Tom, Amazon didn't deliver my new laptop, right? And now I can't use your Visual Studio 2013 with update 4, all right? These are all bad excuses, guys, which I will not accept. Tom, I got sick, right? And I forgot what I was doing, right? You know, these are not good things. Speaking of sick, if you can't do things on time, if for whatever reason you're not able to deliver your assignments in time, and you say I'm sick, I would need a doctor's note just to reiterate these things. These are just common things we talk about, right? Has everyone signed in? I think this is the signing sheet still going around. I think someone's got it. Who's got the sign-in sheet? Please pass it around to those people who haven't signed in. Any questions around this? This isn't rocket science, guys. Again, we're just talking about milestones when it comes to committing to your GitHub. And I've just drawn it out here in a very simple way. Again, I could have used the blackboard, but I figure, what the hell, right? Since we're in a digital world these days, might as well try and reduce blackboard work as much as possible.
Professor, what's the difference between Photoshop and Fireworks?
That's a good question. Photoshop is a tool that we use for when we modify photos, and it's like the AutoCAD of graphic manipulation software, right? To me, Fireworks is almost like a slimmer version of Photoshop that I like to use for web design, right? Now, there's lots of other stuff out there. You can use Illustrator. Some people love Illustrator to use. It's whatever favorite tool you like to use. I just find Fireworks is very simple, right? A lot of people like to use GIMP. GIMP is a great tool too if you want some free tools. That's not a bad tool to use as well, right? GIMP. But there really isn't a lot of difference. I mean, it's still photo manipulation software. You still have layers, just like Photoshop has layers. It's very similar. So you use whatever you want, right? I mean, for me, I'm just using something that I feel comfortable with. And for you guys, you use something that you feel comfortable with. Any other questions around the tools or concepts for assignment number 1? All right, so really important. I'll take that. Really important way of doing stuff. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about in your assignment document, right? So we're talking about this piece here, 4B, right, to get your 2 marks. The idea here is for you to plan, right? How did you plan your stuff out? I'm looking for that. I'm looking for your thinking with this one, guys. I'm trying to get to know you with assignment number 1. I'm trying to see how you're thinking, where you're at. I'd like you to check your spelling. Okay, I know this is crazy, but I've frequently got assignments. This first assignment number 1, with, I mean, okay, maybe you're from a cultural perspective, you're not used to writing in English all the time. Well, this hits this thing where we learn how to speak English and talk English properly, kind of thing, and also write and demonstrate presentation skills, right? So the idea here is that I'd like you to try and check through your stuff, your story, to make sure you have good spelling, all right, that your grammar sits okay, and all that stuff. So what do you do if you're not great at spelling and grammar? I'm going to put my hand up here and ask you the question. What are you going to do, right? Because I'll tell you right now, it's a deal breaker. If you're going to sell a game and there's all kinds of spelling mistakes all over the game, and this is on purpose, like you spell, I don't know, boys with a Z because, that's part of your game. Because, you like to use Z. It's, maybe you call it crazy boys with a Z. That's your game, Fine, that's not a spelling mistake. That's your game. We're talking about spelling mistakes as in you're describing this story we're talking about here with whatever you're making here for assignment number 1, and there's spelling and grammar. So what do you do if you're not great at spelling and grammar? Huh? Anyone have an idea? I'm putting my hand up. I'm going to point. Google can help some of it. Sometimes Word can help you too. But the best thing is to get your friend to take a look at it, right? Get somebody who knows spelling and grammar better than you, right? Get another eye on there, right? Get them to look at your work. Hey, buddy, what do you think of my work? Do you like it? What does it say? Oh, and maybe they can catch you. They can say, oh, hey, you spelled that wrong. Tom is going to take a mark off for that. Or Oh, you know what? I don't know what you mean there. That's not right grammar. You know, we don't speak that way. Whatever, right? Take a look. There's opportunities for you guys to work together on this one from that perspective. It's not a group project, but there's nothing wrong with showing somebody else your work and saying, well, this is where I went with it. You know, what do you think of my project? There's nothing wrong with that. So it takes you like 10 minutes for someone to play your game, max, right? To go through the levels and check it out and all that kind of stuff. And sharing best practices with other people is a good thing, right? You're kind of sharing with other people saying, hey, here's what I did. What did you do? Right? Kind of thing. It's not so much the how, it's the what. What did you do? Show me what you did, right? Sharing the how, telling people how you did it, like, you know, your code and all that kind of stuff, you don't really need to go there because there's not a lot of coding here in this one, right? And that's really around all that I want to talk about with, I'm getting killed today with posts. That's all I would really want to talk about today when it comes to this. I wanted to kind of review assignment number 1 because it's due this Friday at midnight, okay? It's not due Saturday, right? It's not due Thursday. It's due Friday, 11:59 p.m., right? So please try and get it done on time. I'm going to spend the next half an hour before we get into it. I want to go around and see what you guys got. So pump up your project. I want to see what you got. If you don't have anything, that's okay, right? But we're going to talk about that because by now, you should have at least started and you should at least have your storyline, at least your plot. If you don't have that while I'm coming along around today, I want you to put together your plot line for your story, okay? You need to do something, guys. And I'm going to push you to do it because if you don't do this now, you will run into a crunch. Example, let's say you think you're smart and you're going to start it on Thursday. It's a bad idea, all right? Starting it on Thursday gives you very little time for what we just talked about, all these revisions and everything else. This is what makes your game from good to great or from bad to even passable, you know, that kind of thing. So you need time. It's not because I want you to, you know, I'm the only course you have. I'm not saying that. This is not, you know, COMP397, you might have other courses, I'm sure, right? 6, 7 of them probably, or 5, 6 of them at least, right? So, you know, I know there's other stuff going on right now, but the thing is, you got to get going on this. And I'm going to give you a little bit of class time while I go around, at least to go on there and start plotting out your site, all right? Plot out your game a little bit. And remember, I showed you a couple tools on how to do that with mind mapping, right? Where you sit there and you kind of do, you know, like last week we talked about how to kind of put together, you know, are you going to go left or right? Plot out your thing a little bit and pick a story. Again, just as a final note, no dragons, okay? No dragons. I don't want to see dragons. Dragons 0.
What if we have a story?
No,
that
no
talks
dragons.
about the story
Dragon,
of the
no,
dragon?
no, not even a dragon man. I don't want anything like that, okay? No
A
dragons.
story that talks about the story of the dragon.
No dragon story,
After some
right?
time.
No dragon story. I don't want dragons at all. Okay, nothing to do with dragons. Not Lord of the Ring dragons, not dragons from space, not dragons from the deep, okay? Not dragons inside of your soul, okay? I don't want any dragons. All right, and that's it for me. I'm going to stop recording right now for this one, and I'm going to go around and check you guys' work.